everybody. Welcome back to Colony Drop, your favorite Gundam podcast. And my name is Isaac.
And my name is Brian, and this is a podcast where we talk about anything and everything related to the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise, from the anime to the music to the movies to the models to the OVAs to the food to the clothes. You name it, Isaac. We do it all.
That's right, Brian. And today we have a very special episode because in theaters, I guess recently or maybe now, depending on when you're listening to this. No, they'll be gone by the time you listen to this. In theaters was the very special movie version of the first 3 episodes of Gundam GQuacks, or GQuacks Gundam, however they're pronouncing it. We'll just say GQuacks. How about that? GQuacks, Brian.
I think it's pronounced Quucks. So when we did the first GQuacks episode, I looked through all the comments from people who had seen the movie in Japan, and some of them were like, no, it's not Quucks, it's Quacks. But then in the movie, they make it a point in the subs to say, oh, it's pronounced Quucks, and they spell it out. So the people in the comments, they lied to me, Isaac, so I don't know. I first said GQuacks, and then all the comments a month ago got me saying GQuacks, and now after actually seeing the film, I'm back on the Quucks train.
Yeah, see, my issue with that is, oftentimes, almost every time actually, in anime where they pronounce something, when it comes stateside, we just go with our own pronunciation, regardless of like what the Japanese accent is. So I guess we won't know if it's Quacks or Quucks.
Yeah, we gotta wait for that dub.
Potato. Yeah.
Yeah, but
we're in a potato situation.
Quucks, Quacks, take your pick. I don't think anyone's wrong yet. Let's wait a month and then we'll see.
Exactly, yeah.
But like Isaac said, we are recording this on March 1st. 2025. So we saw the film yesterday, February 28th, 2025. I don't know how long it's in theaters, Isaac, but I got the sense that it wasn't a one-day thing, so hopefully maybe people can see it over the next few weeks before they take it away.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, it was called Mobile Suit Gundam GQuacks, The Beginning, and it's a compilation film of 3 episodes. And let's talk about our theater experience, Isaac, because we saw the Mobile Suit Gundam compilation films, and there was only one other person with us in the theater across all 3 films. This one, I'd say we had 20 people in there?
That's a good estimate, and man, that was if you go see an anime movie in theaters, that's the equivalent of 200 people going to see the movie.
Yeah, that's a packed house. The only anime films I've been in theaters for that had more than that are classics like Akira, or franchises that are more popular in America. So something like Dragon Ball or the Demon Slayer movie. When I went to watch that, there was a lot of people in there. But this was an early afternoon showing, not something I would expect people to show up for. However, I will say, Isaac, that we did see this in Irvine, California, at the Irvine Spectrum, where the Mobile Gundam base is currently parked for a month. So that could also be, increase
the anchor, the attraction.
Yeah, that's increasing the numbers of people going to that show. So
it's the big tent. They got foot traffic in that way, and they're like, oh, if you're around, we'll hit them with the targeted ads, and they'll see the movie at the same time.
Yeah, it was clearly working because numbers were up a little bit, at least relative to the original show. That said, Isaac, there was a very disappointing incident in the theater. Although the theater did not turn off like the one for Gundam Seed. I don't know who you were, sir, who was in front of us, who just had his bare feet. He had his shoes off, and he had his feet resting on the headrest of the seat in front of him. Sir, that is disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself.
This man has no shame, Brian.
It was
to top it off, seeing that being done to the chairs in front of that man made me ponder what feet had been on the headrest that I was having my head against in my chair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure now I have worked in a movie theater, and I believe that there are probably many worse things on that headrest than just that man's feet.
Oh boy.
That said, he was not doing wonders for my confidence in humanity.
No, he's spreading the next the next pandemic. He's got the bird flu.
And then on the way out, Isaac, the one guy was just totally passed out. He was just asleep.
He wasn't a fan. Those closing credits music, it knocked him out.
I guess the film didn't hold his attention because he was gone by the credits.
He needed to see Freedom. That was a much better movie.
So
our theater experience in that was almost the worst theater experience I'd ever had.
Yeah. So beyond the feet on the seat and the guy who was passed out at the end, overall good theater experience. Yeah. So I don't know, Isaac. What are your immediate thoughts on this film?
My immediate thought is that the hot dogs were far too small. I'm kidding.
That's true. We paid $7 for these small ass Nathan's hot dogs, which were delicious, but they were like as long as my hand.
They were hot dogs for a small dog, or a small doll. Not a mobile doll, but I don't know, like a plastic Mattel or something. But my immediate impressions of the movie. Oh boy, Brian, it comes out swinging. I really enjoyed the launch of it, how much they were holding our hand and showing us, oh look, everything's the same, and then, things start changing in the timeline. So, beautiful opening. Almost shot for shot opening at the beginning, just obviously modernized for the new show, and man, I had such a great time.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good time. I really enjoyed it. I think the animation was nice. I don't think the animation was quite, freedom level, right? You could still tell that you were watching a TV show rather than a high budget film, but still was very nice. Yeah. I especially liked, Isaac, the shots inside the colonies. I thought that was a high point. I thought those were really neat. There were a lot of still frames in the 1 Year War retelling part, so I think Origin probably still did a lot of that stuff better. But again, that was an OVA, so I kind of expect that.
Okay.
I liked all the new characters and their designs, Machu, Nyan, and Suji. Those seem to be like our three main characters going forward. I liked all them. I thought they were cool. I have no problems with them. And I think that's like in contrast to a lot of how I felt about like some of the GWitch characters, where I was like, I don't like you. But all these ones I didn't really have that many problems with so far. Me
neither. I'm not sure if like the setting had a lot to play into that too, because as they start the movie and they have us go through, if you've seen UC, you'll feel right at home. You're pacing along with them. GWitch, there was a lot of confusion. I remember the beginning, we were still trying to figure out how things were working and what the whole setting was, because it's the only Gundam kind of set in a school, which is still a weird setting the more you think about it. So it was very much, I wouldn't say Gundam by the numbers, but definitely setting by the numbers if you're a UC fan, despite the timeline change.
Yeah, now, the one thing I still wasn't sold on, Isaac, was the mecha designs. Still not loving those. I think the Gundams and the Zaku's definitely look better in motion than they did on still frames and paper, like the line art. But I still think they're kind of ugly. The GQuacks, or the GQuacks itself, I think it's one of the better designs. It's still a little too busy for me. I can't really tell what I'm looking at when I look at it. There's just like lots of colors and lots of stuff on it.
Right.
My favorite ones were probably the gun cannon, the Gundam Unit 1, and maybe the DOMs, even though we didn't see the DOMs very often in the film. I thought they did look pretty cool when they were on the screen.
Yeah. At first I was kind of, I wouldn't say against the design, but I thought it was kind of too out there. Then I actually saw it in the movie, and I really liked it. It grew on me. The first descriptive word I think of when I look at it is insectoid, but like that kind of sounds like a bad word, but it's done well, I think, or well enough for the setting. Now getting to like the mono eyes, like the Zaku's that we saw in the released images, the promotional art, they showed, my biggest problem with it being the legs, right? How they kind of buckled backwards. But in the actual animation, there's just so much movement and just the angles of the cinematography, whatever you call it, that it's not really noticeable. So I was pretty happy with the end product. And you see a lot of Zaku in these first 3 episodes. They are everywhere.
It's pretty much all Zaku's, really, beyond the Gundams.
Right? Like, oh God, you barely even see the Gundams. But yeah, it was pretty great. The Red Gundam. Ooh, Red Gundam. My biggest issue with that is kind of the face.
Yeah.
We have a toe into the Avas.
Yeah, like an Ava Celestial look, right? Like from Marvel with the different, with like the multiple eye hole type things. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to call it, but definitely almost a different type of anime. Because, as I've said before, Brian, especially with Iron-Blooded Orphans, what separates Gundams from all the other suits really comes down to the face.
Yeah.
We need that identifiable kind of samurai armor type face. So if you get rid of that, we don't really look at a Gundam. We get like into a Gerber Tetra situation.
Right, yeah.
But pleasantly happy.
I did find this little snippet of an interview with the mecha designer, Yamashita-san. The interviewer says, "Could you share the overarching concept you had for the mecha in this series?" And his reply is, "First, we wanted the Zaku to remain the standard definitive mobile suit in that world. Second, we wanted to remove the usual character elements from the mobile suits. Whether it's a combat or a civilian model, a mobile suit in space is basically an extension of a vehicle, and that's where we started, thinking of them as advanced, heavy machinery rather than stylized heroes. And the interviewer said, so you envision them as a direct evolution of construction or work vehicles? And he said, exactly. The moment you say Gundam, there's often a pre-built-in expectation that design will look heroic. You anthropomorphize it. One of the ways we departed from that is by giving the Zaku a smaller foot shape. If you think of it as an actual work machine, you'd want it to walk around efficiently, and a huge foot might be unwieldy. It's like wearing ski boots. Everyone knows how awkward that can be. So I'm not sure I agree with that, but that's their logic. I'm fairly certain you would actually need the opposite. Because of how much they weigh, you would need a large foot. But that's what they did, so...
We have to cut this guy down a bit, Brian, because I don't need to explain to you, Brian, how in space a footprint size might not necessarily matter as much as, say, perhaps having the foot large enough to have multiple vernier thrusters so you can maneuver better. God, I can't believe we have to explain this.
I thought the Zaku's looked good in motion because, like you said, you don't really notice the weird proportions. That said, when they do show them flying from the back, then I think it looks a little strange. Like they all got Brazilian butt lifts and they all skip leg day at the same time. So it just looks funky to me, but some people are into that. So there you go.
I mean, from the legs down, I just started getting Gundam Wing flashbacks where all the Oz mobile suits had pretty thin legs. I do kind of, I wouldn't say agree with, but I identify what he's saying as far as the mobile suits being a bit more kind of utilitarian in design. Because a lot of the times, if you looked at the cockpit, the controls and stuff were not bare bones, but they're very kind of linear in a way. Yeah, I thought they were definitely a different take on the usual, console and joysticks we're used to seeing. It was different but refreshing. I liked everything I saw really at the end of the day. Yeah.
I think if that was their goal, then I think they definitely succeeded in removing that heroic or samurai, as you put it, view of the face. Because if you look at the Gundam faces, you're just like, I don't know what that is. I would definitely not call it heroic.
Yeah, Quacks is kind of, the closest we get to a normal Gundam face. Because the Red Gundam that is not at all a Gundam face. This is something else. This is a red Beetleborg or something. Oh, that's a dated reference. They're not going to get it.
I'm going to leave it in for those people that do remember Beetleborgs.
Red Decepticon. There you go.
Maybe Flabber will pop out and give the protagonist some advice.
Oh, Flabber.
Interestingly, though, Isaac, because we did mention this in the first episode we did. Again, I did mention that we went to Irvine because that's where the Gundam base was. I didn't see a lot of people buying those GQuacks kits, Isaac. Did you?
No, I didn't. But I'm not that surprised. As much promotion as you can do for a new series or movie, there's going to be just the length of time from previous series or movies working against you when it comes to the model aisle, picking what to buy for the consumers. They'll go with something that they've seen longer, they've seen the full series, they have their favorite series, as opposed to something new. I'd be surprised if there was any Gundam that came out that, as a Gunpla model, sold record numbers or was their highest selling model compared to previous ones, just because there's not enough time yet for that Gundam model to get the fan devotion, the one that they have to get.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious how those kits are selling in Japan. It's been out a little bit longer over there.
Hopefully well, yeah.
Isaac, on the mobile suit design, we open in 0079, and then really the bulk of our story is going to take place 5 to 6 years later in 0085.
Right.
And the Zakus seem to be the main suit in use, Isaac. It doesn't seem like mobile suit design has really progressed all that much. I guess we have the GQuacks, which does seem to be pretty advanced. Do you think maybe there are more advanced suits? They are just few and far between in the hands of a few? Because, Side 6 is using Zaku's against Zeon, which is kind of ironic.
I felt like some of that was kind of addressed in the movie, interestingly. Or at least you can infer and read between the lines. They mentioned that there's a truce in effect. Zeon's essentially all but won. The Federation probably, I imagine, lost a lot of public goodwill.
Yeah.
When they
they backed
tried
off,
to drop...
Right.
They tried to drop an asteroid onto a civilian city on the moon. You can argue that it was a Zeon-occupied city, but still, come on. Really? Anyways, as far as why the Zaku is still so prominent, and if there are other mobile suits, number one, we know there's other mobile suits because Bandai wants to sell models. Number two, I think it kind of was mentioned that production of new mobile suits had been ordered to stop once they obtained the Gundam that they stole. So from that point onwards, maybe only work was gone into refining the Zaku's a bit more using what they learned from the Gundam, but there isn't really a pressing need to keep innovating an opponent that you've already defeated.
Yeah, I definitely understood the innovation thing, because it's one thing, right? Like, if it's not wartime, I guess you don't really need to do that as much.
Yeah.
At the same time, they also said that they would focus on mass producing the Gundam, right? Did that just not happen? Because, like, we don't see a whole lot of those. So, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I'm sure they'll explain more as we go on in the show. But for now, the Zaku is on top, Isaac. You can rest easy.
But you have to keep in mind, too, how far along this timeline was kept accurate to the one we know from the original show. So Zeon was exhausted long before Char ever got to the colony to steal the Gundam.
Fair.
Because by that point, Rebel already did his Zeon is exhausted speech. So not a ton of manpower left, not a huge amount of resources. Some of them had already been wasted in Solar Ray, from what it sounds like. Not necessarily a ton of manpower resources to throw at, multiple types of new mono eyes, which ironically Zeon did in the actual war and possibly caused them to lose the war.
Yeah.
We need 20 different types of aquatic mobile suits.
Especially all that development that went into the GQuuuuuux, Isaac, which was wasted.
The poor GQuuuuuux. Yeah, they got to cancel that. No, sorry. Maybe Gundamize it. Gundamize the GQuuuuuux.
Yeah, there you go.
Gundam.
Here's a question for you. I have a guy on my team at work. Coincidentally, he saw like a YouTube short of someone building a Gundam, and he decided to go do it. And he was like, oh, what kind of Gundam should I watch if I'm going to watch? So I did our usual spiel, and I said, well, just find one that you like and go watch the show that Gundam's in. He decided the one that he wanted to build was the Gundam Mark II from Zeta. And he's like, oh, should I watch that? And I was like, well,
wow.
I was like, you could, but maybe watch the original first. But then I was like, do I have him go watch this? Is this a newbie-friendly show? Because I feel like if you don't know UC, that first episode is going to be very confusing. You're going to miss all of the underlying things.
That's exactly it. You hit the nail on the head there, buddy. But I feel like the show gets more forgiving maybe in the second episode once you're actually with the new characters.
Oh, absolutely.
At that point, that's almost the starting point of anybody who's watching a new anime. Okay, we're in a space colony or a space station. There's a bunch of kids. Well, not really kids, but young adults.
Yeah, they're young,
and they run like there's a military thing looking for somebody. Then there's the local government, and the story happens. That's much more approachable than the first episode where, oh my God, if you don't know the lore, some of this is going over your heads. Who's that woman in the mask?
Right.
What's this colony? What's this asteroid they're dropping? Right. Where are they dropping it? Is this the moon? It's you'd have a lot of questions if you weren't that well caught up on the UC. Even though it captures the first, 5 minutes of our standard UC episode narration from the original series, after that, it goes off the rails.
Yeah, it's a blitz, right? So that kind of leads into my next question. That's the same thought I had. Now, keeping that in mind, do we think that Char will really be back in a significant way? Or was that just a vehicle to launch us into this journey and then create this kind of mystery that I'm not sure really needs to be solved? Because if Char comes back, does he take away from the new characters?
Yeah, I feel like he'd be better used sparingly. Is that essentially what you're...
Yeah, I'm thinking if he comes back, maybe, the last episode or something.
Yeah, or he's really just kind of pops in and out. That'd be the best way to do it. Otherwise, the viewers, especially the ones who've watched Gundam as long as we have, will almost be on edge, just kind of focused on Char, wanting Char to come back. And whatever these kids are going through, it's so insignificant because when Char's on there, essentially the stakes of the whole Earth sphere are on the table, as opposed to whatever day-to-day problem these kids have. Running from a lone shark or whatever the girl was doing, running away from the local organized crime, or the other one being a refugee and not wanting to get kicked out of the colony. Shoji or Shuji?
Shuji, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever he's up to, I don't even think he's got any problems. Dude, he's just looking to help people, right?
He lost his life savings with that one coin that he dropped in that shallow water that none of them jumped in to go get.
On the bright side, he can make that life savings back pretty quickly.
Do you think Was it just me, or was the amount of currency that one coin held, was that like ridiculous? Like, because he's buying a pretty expensive thing, right? The illegal key thing.
Yeah.
That has to be like a pretty penny, right? That'd be like me carrying around a coin worth what I have to assume is several $1,000s.
Yeah, I feel like that was something culturally kind of lost on people outside of Japan, since in Japan, there are denominations of like yen and coins.
Yes, yeah, they're a heavy coin-based society. They love their coins over there. I don't know that there's a yen coin that big though.
Yeah, but definitely higher amounts than you would think. But here in the U.S., God, I can't think of the last time someone really used coins that I've seen in my presence. But that kind of went over most people's heads, and most people, you could be forgiven for thinking it was fake.
Right. Yeah, that's true too.
Like, oh, this kid's half crazy. That's just, a penny.
Yeah. Did he really have any money? Yeah.
Yeah. The truth is, no, that might have been, I don't know, a few hundred, possibly, conceivably, and then it's like, oh, it's actually more than that.
Isaac, this film set up a bunch of questions that we now need answers to. So I'm curious on what your thoughts are on these questions. The first one, a lot of these were raised, I guess I should say, in the first half hour. We know the status of Kycilia. She still seems to be alive. And I'm sure your heart is just satisfied, right, knowing that she's still alive and well out there.
Brian, I was white-knuckling it when that asteroid was headed towards Granada.
Like, Kycilia,
I thought,
get out.
Oh my God. Yeah, like her one like advisor or whatever. I was like, what are you doing? Grab her by the hair and like throw her into the nearest ship. We have to get out of here.
But the same is not true for your buddies Girin and Degwin. We don't know where they are. I don't think they were mentioned, right? And we know Dozel appears to be dead and Garma appears to be safe.
Yeah, those are the two big questions. Who's actually running things? I'd be surprised if one of three people aren't running things. I'd be surprised if Darcia actually ended up in control or something happened, right? Which would be an interesting twist or something like that. We see a Delaz.
Yeah.
But I'd be surprised if either Degwin's still alive, just a bit older. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, actually. Let me rephrase. I figure Degwin's still alive. That's option one. Girin is now in charge. Either Degwin's gone or retired or who knows. Or Kycilia did something to Girin and now she's in charge.
That's my bet.
It's one of the three.
That's my bet. I think Kycilia has taken out Girin and Degwin has probably died of old age because I'm not sure he's a useful character anymore at this stage.
No. Although he would be more, he'd be less depressed as long as Garma's still alive.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe he just stepped down to go like hang out with Garma.
Yeah, I don't know. They go to the opera a lot. Remember the opera? The opera's been featured a lot lately in Xeon lore.
Yeah.
Maybe he just hangs out there.
I like that. Yeah. So in that first episode, we see the Kira as Machu calls it, or the what we used to know as kind of the axis shock. In here they call it a Zeknova, which is an interesting word, and that causes all kinds of questions. They refer to it as the other side, or Shuji does at least, and we hear Char say he can see time, and then he sort of disappears along with a piece of Solomon. What do you think the other side is? A chunk, a large chunk. Do you think the other side is an experience, or is it an actual place that Char and that piece of Solomon went to?
God, I can't even imagine. So, using kind of the evidence that we've got, where people in Gundam, especially the UC, can sort of conceivably die physically, but then later on in other episodes or movies, you start hearing their voice as if like their psyche continues to live on.
Sure.
Wherever Char went, and the chunk of of Solomon / Confe Island, wherever he went, might be where those psyches reside, where they're still functional, and they can reach out to sort of our dimension or our plane of existence and give some communication or some interaction. So Char somehow, not surprisingly since it's Char, was able to physically go there, and that's where he is.
I agree. So I guess one question I had on the Solomon thing, do we agree that the piece actually disappeared rather than broke off? I didn't see it flying away.
Absolutely.
Right? It was just gone.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the chunk that was taken was like too smooth.
Right.
Like a bubble, a warp bubble took it away.
Yes.
So this is absolutely, and also, what a cover up too, because the Jamatov would be proud of this cover up. It couldn't have blown up because there's no debris on the moon or on Granada.
Sure. Yeah.
if a chunk that big blew up, Granada would have been destroyed
Right,
anyways,
yeah.
just from the debris falling back down.
Oh man, that would have been the most like Tomino thing to do though, right? Break off the debris
Yeah.
and everyone cheers, but then the debris piece still hits the city and kills everyone.
That would have been the equivalent of like the lore accurate second Death Star destruction over Endor, where like everybody's cheering, all the rebels and the Ewoks are cheering that it was destroyed, and then they have to run for their lives as like the debris starts raining down from the sky. Yeah.
Okay, so this is leading up to my ultimate prediction for the show, but I gotta cover a few other things. Okay, so then where is Char? So we think he's in this other area.
Yeah. What we will call the newtype dimension.
There you
go. Go.
Okay, so the next thing I have to cover is the Sharon of the Rose, which you didn't even remember, right? I asked you right after. This was
No.
one line or like two lines around when the Zeknova happens. Someone says, "Oh, that new type runaway escaped," and they refer to the Sharon of the Rose. I believe that's what it was translated as, and they say that it was like underneath Granada or something, if I recall, or in the moon somewhere. Now, I googled Sharon of the Rose, and that is apparently some type of flower, and I think it has like Hebrew origins in the name. And when I look at the flower, Isaac, the first thing I thought of was Lala.
Oh no.
Purple, flowy.
Sure.
So then I started Googling, is Sharon of the Rose Lala? And that's when I found this post by a guy named Bob4978135 on Reddit today, or a few days ago. He has a lot of information here, which I can't really verify, but I have heard of the Tomino memo, which he's referring to. He says after Char was buried at Solomon, the suit, the Red Gundam, his Gundam Saikamu reacted to something other than Char and caused a paranormal phenomenon known as a Zeknova. The mysterious object Sharon Rose, which I think they called Sharon of the Rose, appears to have been placed in the basement of the lunar city of Granada, but it disappeared just before Char's paranormal phenomenon. Perhaps the factor in Zeknova is this Sharon's Rose. And then he says, aside, when Gundam was produced in 1979, Tomino-san had created a plot in advance in this thing called the Tomino Memo. It's kind of like, just like the show Bible, if you will. Parts of that were used and parts were not, as with any production. But in his memo, the Elmith, which the wiki says is most likely a grammatically incorrect form of the Hebrew phrase for god of death. Guess where the Elmith was stored, Isaac? It was placed deep underground on the moon, and it was set up to operate its bits from there instead of going out in the battlefield. So if you put that with the Sharon of the Rose thing, I think it's definitely Lala or something to do with Lala. And this is my ultimate thing, Isaac. The Red Gundam is back, but Char is not. So what if Lala or Sharon of the Rose or whatever this is felt that the timeline was off, and so she took Char and presumably Sayla away. I'm gonna guess Sayla's with them, or Artesia, if you want to call it Artesia.
Wow. Yeah.
And she was like, "This is wrong. You're coming with me." To me, that's the only reason why Char wouldn't go back. Like, where is he? Because the Char we know would stay with Lala. I don't think he would go back.
No.
So to me, this makes sense because the Red Gundam's back, which means that perhaps Char is also back or had the chance to come back.
I mean, that's such an airtight theory. My only possible question would be, is it possible that someone or something tried to bring back Char, but all they managed to do was bring back the Red Gundam?
Sure.
So there's clearly some capability or some type of action that can be done to move between dimensions and stuff like that, or whatever's going on. Move outside of time. Whether Lala's Sharon of the Rose, possible. Likely, based on everything you just said. There's not a lot that would counter this evidence.
The other thing that made me think that way is, did you think there was any significance to the Saikamu being like overly powerful for 0079? Right, because we had to wait until UC 0093 to see this in Char's Counterattack, and that was with Psycho Frames, which were much more advanced in Saikamu. And in here, there was not even any willpower involved, right? In Char's Counterattack, you had all those pilots, and you had the whole world basically praying that this thing would go away. I'm not sure that you had that here. Maybe you did of the citizens of Granada, but they didn't show it. So that's why I'm like, oh, something bumped up this power level, Isaac, and maybe that was Lala. That's my theory. Possibly. That's going to end up totally wrong, by the way, but I'm just throwing that out here. I'm just throwing that out there.
I hope not, because it's a pretty good theory. But I feel like in general, this was like the new type display movie / episode for UC, because I've never seen bits that close before. The scale of them was way bigger than I thought they were. They performed great. So yeah, Saikami is at an all-time high in this this movie, this series, especially with Shalia Bull doing so well.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Shia Bull, so I think he was a great
Yeah.
use. That was a great use of the character, which I think we've mentioned before. We both really liked Shia Bull in the original show, and he was just underutilized because the show basically got canceled.
Yeah, he came off as a great guy too. I mean, kind of under Caecilia's,
Sure.
beck and call, but I mean, there's not much you can do about that in Xeon. But he never came off as like a bad Xeon officer. He's in the good category.
Right. And I think he was a pretty likable character in here. He definitely had a nice redesign, a little more modern. He doesn't look as old. I think if you watch the original show, right, he looks like he's in his 50s in that style and in that animation. But here he looks like much more like a younger dude. What do you think we're going to see him pilot? Because he's definitely going to get behind the stick again.
I mean, it'd be great to see him in mobile suits. Maybe there's some type of Xeonic Gundam-derived suit he can get in, but I'd also be happy just to see him stick with his bread and butter.
The Brow Bro. You want him back in the Brow Bro, huh?
We saw it do so well,
Sure.
and it was great seeing it. I'd like to see it in more battles, because it was pretty beautiful watching it.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I'm hoping he
Yeah.
gets some sort of GQuacks-esque Gundam of his own.
The GQuacks. Oh, there you go. So, as far as like how you would describe this as a movie, it really felt like two movies in a way.
Oh, for sure.
The first half, not even first half, first third, of course, kind of explains the setting for us, for anyone uninitiated, and then for all the loyal fans, shows the timeline break down to the details. After that, I can see some new people who maybe haven't seen UC kind of lose it from there. That would be my one sort of, not a warning to Sunrise or anything like that, but just a concern that, look, you have this setting and then this transition. You might have lost some people. Since episode 2 and onwards, it's almost all new characters.
Not only is it new characters, but I feel like it's also tonally and atmospherically different. Because you said it before, right?
Yeah.
Like the first half hour is like 1 year war, boom, 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 all these like battles and all this stuff, and then it's the kids dealing with their loan sharks and their like little battle game that gets streamed and their cell phone problems. Those are two very different things.
Absolutely. Not just that. For the life of me, it feels like the animation slightly changes too.
Oh, absolutely. I think they did all that on purpose. I think it was a
Yeah.
gradual change.
Okay.
Because like you said, they started full-on remake of UC, Char and the Mask and everything. And then by the end, we were in like Fooly Cooly designs.
Yeah, it's almost a bit of whiplash in scale too,
Sure.
which movies and series generally do the opposite, where we don't open with the big battles and stuff, and then switch to like small 2-on-2 combat situations. So mecha-wise, mecha combat-wise, big robot fan-wise, they might get a bit of whiplash in a situation like that. If you walked in knowing that this was just sort of the intro to a show, I would hope you're a bit more kind of forgiving and lenient on the story for that. But yeah, characters-wise, if you're big on battles and war, and you see Char and he's this great ace pilot, and there's these other, intrigue stuff going on with Caecilia, and then Whiplash, we're in like the slums of a colony, far and away from battle and intrigue. It's definitely a bit of a change in tone. But I feel like the characters were interesting enough, and what happened in the story to the characters and the plot was good enough in episodes 2 through 3 that it was a fun ride. And I look forward to more.
Yeah, I definitely like the characters. I had no problem really with what has transpired so far. I think as long as you view the show as more of a Fooly Cooly show than like a UC Gundam, then I think you can mentally make it work. For example, there's things that really wouldn't happen in a normal UC Gundam show. For example, like, how has Shuji been maintaining the Red Gundam? How is that clan battle team maintaining those Zakus? Like, I just don't believe that. And I don't think that would fly in a UC show normally. But here I don't really care because of the tone.
Yeah, and also, like, how are they hiding the Zaku? This is, like, one colony. You kind of have to suspend belief. You kind of have to give it the Batman belief, right? Where, like, oh, of course, all this Batcave can be hidden and,
right.
All that stuff. And,
right.
They have nowhere near the resources of Bruce Wayne since they're broke half criminals. But, it still works. Sure, we're in the slums. No one's looking around, really.
The closest I can think of is in 083 when Kelly Lasner is hiding the Valvaro. But he has his own junkyard in an area that no one goes to.
And it's massive.
And he has the skills to do so. Whereas these guys, like, even if they did participate in that clan battle, I don't feel like they would have won. You know what I mean? So like I can't really believe that they are properly maintaining their Zaku's.
Yeah, not just that, but like they also mentioned they don't have enough money for like certain types of weapons.
Right.
So at that point, I was like, shouldn't they be kind of more in like a junior league, maybe?
Yeah, or a video game version, perhaps.
Yeah, the plot should have them doing like melee combat or something, and then they level
Right.
up. But no, they kind of jump into it, ready to go. I don't know how, but it also speaks volumes on like how weak security actually is. If if people are openly having underground mobile suit fights for money.
Site 6 is just completely a mess, is what you're saying. They do not have a grip on their population.
Yeah, President Cameron Bloom, he needs to tighten his grip because, oh my God, they're running roughshod, and Xeon can just show up whenever they want.
But again, I don't think I care because like realism wasn't really the focus of the show at that point. I don't think.
No, they really scaled down the stakes, and that can kind of work in its favor though as we go on from here, and see the story sort of unfold. I really hope we do get to some larger battles. Maybe it'll be done kind of like how Iron-Blooded Orphans did, where there's really just one or two space battles, but they're good enough, and the story really leads to them well. Whether we get a full-fledged war using these characters, ooh, I don't know, Brian. I have a hard time imagining it.
That seems unlikely to me at this stage.
Yeah.
But again, we've only seen 3 episodes. I have no idea how long this thing's even going to be, whether it's going to be 26, 52. I guess we don't know. The show has been confirmed to start broadcasting on Tuesday, April 8th. I still don't think there's an episode count, though, Isaac. So I don't know if we're getting 13, 26, 52.
Interesting.
I'm guessing 26, and if it does well, maybe we'll give it another go. I don't know.
Man, I hope they didn't undershoot because they knew it was quasi-experimental, and then we get like a rushed ending or something,
I mean, I feel like that's what they did with GQuuuuuux, so it very well could happen here.
Oh, no. By the way, here's a super weapon, here's a larger organization that's kind of the government, and here's a fleet battle. Roll credits.
I think this is probably, like you said, more experimental than GQuuuuuux. That said, this is backed by bigger names, so maybe they're willing to give it a go since the Fooly Cooly and Evangelion team are involved.
I'm all for it. I'm optimistic. I'm eagerly anticipating to watch the full thing. I wouldn't say I'm too upset about anything that was done in the movie or in the beginning of the show. I'm a little curious why they went with Conch as sort of being the new robot over Haro.
Oh.
That kind of puzzled me.
I guess they're both there, right? The Shuji has Conch, and it seems like Machi's gonna have Haro. You can never have enough robot mascots, Isaac.
Sure, I suppose, but I don't know. Haro's always been kind of the mainstay. They're taking away the spotlight, Brian. What are they thinking?
Of all things, Isaac is worried about Conch, the usurper of the robot mascot role.
We don't want a Conch around here.
Haro's only.
He's up to no good. He doesn't even have face. Haro's got a face.
Yeah, you said you really like the new Haro with the beanie, right?
Yeah, it looked great. Although I think the reveal underneath the beanie is that it doesn't have the flappers.
I didn't see any flappers or really any ability to walk and have arms or anything like that. Yeah, I didn't see that.
See, the Pomeranians are so broke. They can't even afford like the flappers on this toy robot.
Yeah.
How are they fielding the fuel, the maintenance, the ammunition for this Gundam? The regular upkeep.
I mean, I think it's just through pure willpower, just like Machu. She just gets mad when she battles and screams, and things kind of work out. She's going to hit you with her heat hawk.
God, under the hood, that reactor must be like just redlining it seconds from going critical and blowing up part of that column.
It's not working. Just push harder. By the way, the heat hawk is clearly going to be her like signature thing, right? By the end of this, she's got to get a much bigger heat hawk, right? We're going to see her with a huge axe.
Oh, the Dolzal one, the two-handed.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Man, the beam hawk. Ooh.
I like that. We got to get that. She's going to need some bits, though. I feel like the GQuacks is under-equipped at the moment.
I mean, that's not surprising, though, as she gets stronger in her powers. Oh, how'd you feel? I was a bit surprised this happened. Add this to my list of surprises in this episode, even though I walked in knowing it's a new show and a new series. Char wipes out the bridge of the White Base.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. I was like, oh, they're going to surrender the ship. Like, he's standing before them. He's got a weapon. There's nothing they can do. he didn't really have to like wipe out the bridge. Jesus Christ.
They even kind of gave him crap for it later on, right? When he was like, "Well, are you done yet?" And they're like, "Well, it's gonna take us a while, sir, because you vaporized the bridge." I mean, it was definitely ruthless, but I think tactically it made a lot of sense because he removed any and all opposition to what he was trying to do.
Sure, I suppose. I guess in theory they could have activated some weapon from the bridge to try to shoot him.
Or they could have activated the cannons on the white base and shot his moose eyes outside. Like that would have really put a damper on his ability to get the Gundam back to Zeon. So
yeah, at that point they're just hoping he like runs out of I guess energy or something, or he's just a stranded mobile suit really at that point.
He was all in on that plan and he went for it, man.
Yeah. I like how they lampshaded too in the beginning. Like, it's a good. What they say, it's a good thing Gene stayed back or something.
Zaku was damaged and he couldn't go.
Yeah.
Zeon's loss in the original series is completely Gene's fault.
Butterfly effect.
Butterfly Gene.
But man, the setting now has just so many questions. Like, what's going on in Zeon? I really hope we see. They have to show us. There has to be an episode where they go back with the what they call it now, the rocking horse.
Yeah.
Oh no, the Sodon.
Yeah.
Sodon.
Does Sodon mean anything to you? I haven't looked up that name. I wonder if that's like a mythological name.
I haven't bothered checking because the moment I heard it, I kind of rolled my eyes and was like, as usual, another bizarre Zeon name that nobody knows is actually like, it's nothing. There's no way it's something.
I will say Sodon I don't think is a good name. I think they should have called it something else.
No. I would have been happy with the rocking horse. I thought they'd kind of give it a half funny name.
Yeah, kind of like in a mocking way.
Yeah. It's like, we got the rocking horse. It was just sitting around. Now it's ours, and then we painted it green.
I mean, they could have just called it Green Base.
Yeah, or the emerald. I don't know.
Sodon, though,
something.
Interesting.
I'm not the biggest fan of the paint job they did to it. It's a little too light green for Zeon. We need that deep olive. That's our color, but they didn't go with that.
So Sodon is a ship. It's a tug support spaceship already. It's like an existing ship in the Gundam TV series. It's like you wouldn't remember this. It looks like a little capsule. I mean, I think this ship was actually even in the GQuacks movie.
We must have heard wrong then. They must have referred Sodon to the actual small ship.
I don't think so. I think it's really called the Sodon.
They can't both be called the Sodon.
No, yeah, it's the Sodon. Pegasus class Sodon.
So they're both called the Sodons.
Okay, well, still, the Sodon is still not a good name. I don't care if it's a pre-existing ship. For a flagship like that, I think you need a better name.
Yeah, I agree. What'd you think about the paint scheme?
I thought it was pretty muted.
Yeah.
I mean, Zeon's always been a little less flashy than the Federation has with their, whites and blues and reds. So it doesn't surprise me, but it wasn't very bold.
No, but I feel like it would have looked so much better as a deep olive and then just the blazing yellow Zeon emblem on the sides or the front. It was a really missed opportunity, really. It's such a subtle light green. It's almost still looking all white.
Yeah, it's kind of like mashed pea green. I agree. It could use some nice emblems. Who knows? Maybe it'll get upgraded or something. It's Charlie is in it, so...
Yeah, maybe it'll take a lot of damage and they'll have to put a new coat of paint on it or something.
Yeah, there you go. So how would you rate this compilation film so far, Isaac? I mean, it's only been 3 episodes, so maybe it's not super fair to give it a rating, but it is a standalone film, and we saw it, right? So.
Right. Gotta rate what we saw. Gotta rate it whether it's a standalone movie or an episode and treat it as just what it is. And for that reason, and for the fact that I went in blind, I had such a good time with such a good story, interesting characters. Really even enjoyed the times where we saw very computerized type animation. I'd give it a 4 out of 5 Haros. It was that good. I really enjoyed it. I look forward to more, and I'm optimistic that this will be superior to GWitch.
I agree. I would give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a really fun watch, especially if you know the lore and all that. I think there's a lot more for you to pick up on here than if you're just going in blind. I'm not going to go higher than that just because I do think it's not newbie friendly. And I'm still not exactly sure who this show is for other than like us. And I feel like we are a very narrow market. So, but, and then, again, I wasn't really too on board with the mecha designs, but I really enjoyed the characters and the new story. So I'm excited to watch more. And I think it did its job, Isaac. It got us both interested and we're both going to watch the show. I think you'd have to be a pretty jaded person to not want to watch the show or not be interested after you watch this.
Yeah, it's such a new take. I can see it being so good for younger audiences. I can see it being great, obviously, for people like us who've seen UC and want something UC but fresh. It's great for new anime fans since it's an upcoming new series. It's going to be great for people that like big robots. It's got a lot going for it, and I'm optimistic and hope nothing but the best for the show's success.
All right, listeners, let us know if you were lucky enough to get out and see GQuacks The Beginning in theaters. Let us know what you thought about it. Did you like the changes to the 1 year war? Did you like all the new characters, the mecha designs? How do you like those Zaku legs? Isaac's dying to know. And
the buckling knees.
Yeah, how do they stay up? How do they stay up if they're on Earth-based combat? Maybe there'll be like Earth versions, Isaac, that have bigger feet.
I'm still thinking of that guy's comments, the designer. Like, construction vehicles and utility vehicles on Earth need kind of a big platform for stability. So why would they need smaller legs and smaller feet? This doesn't make any sense.
Most construction vehicles are very wide and thick at the bottom, I'll be honest. So I'm not sure what he's really thinking there, but he's the mecha designer, not me. He's very famous. I'm not. He knows what he's talking about, and I don't. So
sure, I bet. Yeah, right.
And with that, take us away, Isaac.
All right, listeners, before you go to sleep tonight, stand next to your bed, get on your knees, put your hands together, look up at the ceiling, and hail GQuacks.
Look for the Kira Kira, everybody. Good night.